Bill Maher is about to do here is basically his version of the Why I Left the Left video. It's almost identical to what Dave Rubin did, to many of the grifters before us have done. So he's about to point out that he's become the new darling of the right, like Fox News. But he's about to say, it's not my fault, folks. The reason I'm the new darling of the right is not because I've changed, it's because the left has changed. The left is crazy now. And there's a reason that I have to continuously spread these conservative narratives. And as his excuse for why he is justified in spreading all these right-wing conservative narratives, he's about to exclusively use right-wing narratives as his examples. So what he's doing here is he's going to Gish Gallop, which is a form of argument where you spout out very quickly a bunch of examples, but you don't like go into depth or detail about what you're talking about. You just give a ton of them out there, and it's very difficult for the person debunking you to dissect all of the different examples you're given one by one. So it seems like you have an incredibly large body of reasons that are reasonable for why you're doing what you're doing. But if you actually slow it down and break it down point by point, it's ridiculous nonsense bullshit. So I'm about to do that here, folks. It's going to take a little while, but it's fucking worth it in my opinion. So here's Bill Maher going to explain why he's the new darling of the right and why it's not his fault, folks. He has every right to do it.
And finally, new rule, it's depressing enough. Having just had a birthday and being 66, please don't ask me to start doing grown-up things like run for president.
Yeah, no one really is asking to run for president. Yeah, Fox News is joking about it because you're their new darling, but no one gives a shit about you, Bill Maher. Fuck off.
A few weeks ago, Fox News' Dana Perino, a former Bush press secretary, suggested that the Democrats should recruit me to run for president, which is kind of special because it means that in the space of 20 years, Bush press secretaries have gone from telling me I need to watch what I say.
They need to watch what they say, watch what they do, and this is not a time for remarks like that. There never is.
They've gone from that to wondering if I should run for president.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see if Bill Maher is recruited to run for the presidency.
Yeah, but don't worry, folks. It's not because he's changed. He has no responsibility for this.
Now, some people think this means I've changed.
You have.
I assure you, I have not. I am still the same unmarried, childless, pot-smoking libertine I always was.
Dave Rubin is a gay man who supports universal health care. He's a liberal, y'all. That's what Joe Rogan was telling us. It's the same fucking argument. I smoke pot. How could I be on the right? Yeah, lots of righties smoke fucking pot, dude.
I have many flaws, but you can't accuse me of maturing.
We won't. Trust me.
Let's get this straight. It's not me who's changed. It's the left.
Okay.
Who is now made up of a small contingent who've gone mental and a large contingent who refuse to call them out for it. But I will. Sure. That's why I'm a hero at Fox these days.
That's why. That's why I'm a hero at Fox these days, because I'm actually calling people out on their bullshit. No, you're literally just spreading the same right-wing talking points that Fox News spread without any critical analysis of them whatsoever, and they love you for it. That's why you're the new darling of the right. I'll show you.
Which shows just how much liberals have their head up their ass, because if they really thought about it, they would have made me a hero on their media.
But we didn't, and there's a reason.
But that can't happen in this ridiculous new era of mind-numbing partisanship, where if I keep it real about the nonsense in the Democratic Party, it makes me an instant hero to Republicans.
Right.
The same thing happened in reverse to Darth Vader's daughter, Liz Cheney, who is now a hero to liberals because
she's not a hero to liberals at all. She's just a better alternative than those who are lying about the election. We still don't like our policies. We're just refreshed at the fact that some Republican is not following the Donald Trump lie. That doesn't mean she's our hero.
He recognizes Biden did not steal the last election. What a sad commentary on our politics, where simply acknowledging reality is now seen as a profile in courage.
It is. It is. That's the sad part of what Republicanism has become, though, right? That's not the fault of the fucking Democrats there, Bill Maher. It's the opposite of that.
People sometimes say to me, you You didn't used to make fun of the left as much. Yeah, because they didn't give me so much to work with.
All right, let's get some examples here.
The oath of office I took was to comedy.
You failed that oath.
And if you do goofy shit wherever you are on the spectrum, I'm going to make fun of you because
make
that's
fun
where
of you,
the
Bill.
gold is.
Yeah, you're
and
gold,
the fact
Bill.
That they are laughing at it should tell you something. It rings true.
Yeah, folks, the fact that my audience, who came here specifically to see me, is responding to the applause signs and hooting and hollering, that means I'm telling the truth. Super good point there, Bill.
When normal people read that San Francisco has basically legalized shoplifting.
Okay. So he's putting this article up here from right-wing Wall Street Journal about how San Francisco has legalized shoplifting. Now, of course, San Francisco has done nothing of the fucking kind. Now, back in 2014, I think it is, San Francisco was trying to lower the amount of non-violent criminals that were in prison. So they reduced the amount from $400 to $900 to whether you're going to be charged with a felony or a misdemeanor. So he's calling this a legalization of shoplifting. But here's the crazy part. He's about to go on and praise Ted Cruz in the very next section of this. But Texas has a law where you need to shoplift $2,500 to be considered a felony. So if San Francisco, according to his logic, has legalized shoplifting, then it is incredibly uber fucking legal in Texas. But as I'll show you, even the prosecutors have fucking come out and said this is not fucking true. We are prosecuting shoplifters. Chelsea Boudin, we're blaming the wrong things for San Francisco's retail theft. The ones that went viral in the videos, we've prosecuted every single one of them. And goes on to explain, blaming legal reform is equally misguided. Rolling back Proposition 47 would not solve the problems we are facing now. California's felony theft threshold of $950 is still among the lowest in the country. 38 states have felony thresholds at or above $1,000, and Texas has a threshold of $2,500. So according to Bill Maher's logic, 38 states have more open shoplifting laws than San Francisco does, but he's not mentioning them because it doesn't fit into his narrative to shit on Democrats and give him an excuse for why he's now the new right-wing darling. Literally sharing propaganda from right-wing news sites in order to bolster his points.
They think Democrats have gone nuts. They think, you know, that Ted Cruz guy seems like a real stiff. But at least he believes in the concept of shopping with money.
Yeah, Texas, $2,500. It's like 2.5 times worse than San Francisco about this point you're making. Bill Maher, where are your fact checkers at? Don't you have writers that research anything you say? I'm goddamn one person sitting in my fucking bed with a budget of $0 that does more research than you do on HBO.
It's not my fault that the party of FDR and JFK is turning into the party of LOL and WTF.
Yeah, it's your fault for spreading these right-wing narratives that are not fucking true and pretend like they are to bolster your arguments on why you're the new right-wing darling. You fucking piece of shit.
Members of Congress tweeting things like cancel rent, cancel mortgage, and no more policing or incarceration.
So now he's about to point out things that brown and black people have said to scare you. More right-wing talking points. So yes, during a fucking pandemic where we did not want to kick people out on the streets and make them homeless while they didn't have fucking jobs, they wanted to cancel rent, mortgages, and student debts to help Americans out. Oh, that's so horrible, isn't it, Bill? And then Rashida Tlaib, if you actually look at what she's saying here, she's talking about how Dante Wright was murdered by police, and she's talking about how more policing and more incarceration and more militarization of our police is not how to solve this. The whole system has to be torn down because it cannot be reformed. She's not talking about never having any kind of policing, never having any kind of incarceration. She's talking about like more of this same policy is not how to fix this. That's clearly what she's saying. But no, you got to kind of quote what she kind of says, not in the best possible way. And not give her any benefit of the doubt in order to scare your audience and use this as an example for why you become a right-wing shithead.
Declaring that capitalism is slavery.
Okay, now he's going to point out another black guy. That's so scary. I believe our current system of capitalism is slavery by another name. Oh my God, isn't that so scary? Isn't it horrible what the fuck he's saying? Let's see what he actually said. Let's read the guy's entire quote and see if it's as scary as Bill Maher is making it out to be, or if he's just putting, like all right-wing shitheads do, he's putting out the words of black folks out there to scare the boomer whiteys. Let's read this whole thing. I believe our current system of capitalism is slavery by another name, he said. We've moved from a physical chattel enslavement and physical racial segregation to a plantation economic system, one that keeps the majority of Americans unemployed or underemployed and struggling just to survive, while the power elite continues to concentrate wealth in the hands of a few and allow large corporations to pretty much run the world as multinational corporations. The pandemic has revealed it, with almost 300,000 dead from the pandemic, disproportionately black and brown, and Jeff Bezos is the first 200 billionaire. In the next 6 years, he might become the first trillionaire. That's slavery by another name. It's a system that's not working, so we need a new system. Does that not sound reasonable as fuck? So why is Bill Maher clipping out a small section of what this black guy says and using it to scare you with in order to justify his hard right turn? Well, it's because he's a lying fuck who doesn't give a shit. He's now a right-wing mouthpiece and propagandist. Let's continue, please.
Canceling Lincoln and Dr. Seuss teaching.
Canceling Lincoln. Yeah. So another article from right-wing Forbes about Abe Lincoln is next in the cancel culture chopping blogs. So what this article is about about how a small number of people at a school wanted to remove a Abraham Lincoln statue because of how he treated Native Americans. And Bill Maher is going to say, hey, well, the problem is it's a few extremists who believe this, and then the rest of the Democrats who are unwilling to call them out about it. But you actually look this shit up, and tons of Democrats call them out about this. Here's an article from The Hill, which is incredibly left-leaning, dumping Abraham Lincoln a word of advice to the cancel culture, where they call out the students that want to remove the Abraham Lincoln statue and say, hey, maybe this is misguided. So exact opposite of what Bill Maher is claiming here. He just a lying piece of shit, and then he's going to go on to talk about
teaching
how we canceled Dr. Seuss, which is 100% a right-wing narrative that has no basis in reality. The family of Dr. Seuss decided they no longer wanted to be associated with these racist old books that weren't selling very well, and they made the decision not to publish it anymore. Had nothing to do with Democrats canceling Dr. Seuss. Most of us had no idea this existed. So why Bill Maher using specific straight-up right-wing talking points in order to bolster his claim? I wonder.
Children their oppressors, and math is racist.
So math is racist. Here he is quoting an article from the Hoover Institute. Who is the Hoover Institute, I wonder? The Hoover Institute on War, Revolution, and Peace is a conservative American public policy institution and research institution that promotes personal and economic liberty, free enterprise, and limited government. It's a right-wing think tank. Bill Maher quoting a right-wing think tank to make his point on why he has to become the right-wing darling now. If you actually research this, so they're making a course that tries to examine why a lot of the terms that we use in math come from the Western world and how colonization helped influence the language we use when it comes to mathematics. And they've actually shown that these classes help minority students greatly. A 2016 Stanford University report looked at ethnic studies classes in San Francisco high schools and found that attendance increased by 21% and GPA increased by 1.4 grade points. There were significant effects on GPA specific to math and science, the study said, and boys and Hispanic students improved the most. When students can see themselves in curriculum and see diversity in curriculum, they respond better, Al said, and it can help white students understand themselves better. Structural racism in the country has mistaught white people about themselves, that they don't have culture, that they don't have roots. So even if you disagree with this, Bill Maher's representation of this is false, and he's legitimately just simply spreading right-wing talking points from right-wing think tanks.
Making Mr. Potato Head gender neutral.
Nobody made Mr. Potato Head gender neutral. Oh my God. So Hasbro the company that makes Mr. Potato Head, wanted to have more girls buy their toys. So they changed their line of toys to Potato Head, and under the line of Potato Head, they have Mr. Potato Head and Mrs. Potato Head. They both still fucking exist. They just wanted a bigger demographic to market to, so they slightly changed it. Nothing at all to do with Democrats whatsoever. You're just spreading a right-wing talking point and fucking lying in order to justify your bullshit, Bill Maher.
Neutral. And now an emoji for pregnant men.
Oh no, an emoji from pregnant man. This once again has nothing at all to do with Democrats. This is Apple. Apple released this emojicon that can be seen as either trans-inclusive or can be a tongue-in-cheek play on having a food baby when you eat too much food. Literally $1 trillion company don't give a fuck about Democrats or anything else than increasing their marketing share, and they're trying to appeal to a broader base to buy their products, and so they're putting stuff like this out to appeal to trans people and allies. Zero to do with the Democratic Party, Bill.
Real. I'm not making it up. California just passed a law requiring large retailers to have a non-gendered toy section.
So this one, I actually almost kind of agree with Bill on. Hey, this is one you might have a point on. This does seem a little bit silly that they did pass a law. If you have a toy store, you have to have a gender neutral section. And so I was like, okay, maybe he has a point there. And then I went and looked it up. And apparently it has some beneficial effects doing this. A growing body of academic research has shown that gender-specific toys can stunt a child's emotional and psychological growth. If you want to develop children's physical, cognitive, and academic, musical, and artistic skills, toys that are not strongly gender-typed are more likely to do this. Judith Elaine Blakemore, a professor of psychology and associate dean of arts and scientists for faculty development at Indiana University, Purdue University, and Fort Wayne, Indiana, said. So, yeah. They're just looking at the science and they're showing that there are some benefits to having a gender neutral section for toys. Now, even if you disagree with this and think it's silly, the very least you can do is present the argument in a fair light and give people the information on why they're doing this and the studies they're using to justify it. Instead of just being, oh, see how stupid the Democrats are. That's why I have to spread right-wing talking points.
Non-gendered toy section? Isn't Ken enough? We need a law for that? You have to inject yourselves into everything?
You do, don't you?
From where you can throw a frisbee to who can braid hair? This is why so many people, by the way, were triggered by COVID policies. Mm-hmm. They were already sick of rules. Uh-huh. Regulation.
We're whiny piss babies, and we can't even do the minimum it takes to keep our fellow citizens safe and healthy.
Should be a good issue for Democrats. It's certainly one they're associated with. And I think the average voter would agree that banks and chemical plants and drug companies need watching.
Right.
Telling a company, you can't dump the waste from your hog farm straight into the water supply. We're mostly all for that.
And by you spreading right-wing talking points and bullshitting your audience about why you're doing it, you make it much, much, much more likely that right-wingers take and maintain powers, who are the people that are going to do exactly what you're saying you're against. They're the ones who are stopping regulations. They're the ones who lead to more pollution in our environment. And you are fucking helping them with your dishonest bullshit there, Bill.
But Democrats have become a parody of themselves, just making rules to make rules because it makes you feel like you're a better person.
Fucking liar.
Making sure that everything bad never happens again.
No one's trying to do that.
Which you can never fully do.
No
it
one's trying
just
to do
makes everyone else's life a drag. The Biden infrastructure bill has a provision that requires all new cars to install an alert system that goes off when you leave a baby in the back seat.
Yeah, that's true, folks. There is a provision in that because apparently 39 babies die every single year. And this technology already exists in many cars already. So they're like, hey, let's save the lives of 39 babies by mandating this technology that already exists.
Which is something done only by crackheads and people who sadly, yes, do it on purpose. And after every one of us winds up bearing the cost for cars to install this alarm, you know who's going to ignore it? Crackheads and people who do it on purpose.
Why are there laws for murder? Hell, murderers, they don't follow laws anyway. So there's no reason to have these laws. They're still going to break them, folks. Genius logic from Bill Maher.
A sensor light is not going to fix this problem, and Democrats no longer possess the common sense to understand that not every problem in the world can be fixed with a regulation.
Yeah, fuck you trying to save 39 babies and countless numbers of dogs who are left in hot cars.
But don't tell that to the advocacy groups who also want every future car in America to only start when the driver blows into a breathalyzer. Oh, great, my other car is a Karen.
Yeah, because everybody knows that what makes you a Karen is not wanting drunk drivers. I mean, I don't know how I feel about this anyway, folks. I mean, there's not a lot of Democrats I think have pushed this, but if new cars have breathalyzer tests in there to make sure drunk drivers don't drive drunk, which kills a ton of fucking people, I'm not going to drive drunk. It has no effect on me.
Well, you know, it's also not safe to drive when you're crying. Should we make a car that follows your texts and stops the engine when you're dumped?
It's the same thing, isn't it? This is a good faith argument.
Racism is bad. How about a car that won't start unless you play a message about tolerance from George Takei?
Totally the same as drunk driving that kills tons of people, isn't it, folks? Apples to apples comparisons here,
Regular
Bill.
viewers.
I'm getting bored, Bill Maher. But anyway, there's his why I left the left bullshit. Gish scalped the fuck out of it, and I broke it down for you so you can see just how stupid those fucking arguments are. You're an old rich white guy. You've decided to lean hard into your right-wing talking points, and you're trying to justify it any way you can, the same exact way every other right-wing shithead grifter has done before you. And it's transparent as fuck, Bill. No matter how your audience reacts to your applause sign, it's not fooling any of us.